Hey mama, feeling stuck, trying to lose that stubborn belly fat, or wondering why you're not getting stronger no matter how hard you work? Same. I have been in your shoes, and in this episode, I'm spilling exactly what helped me shift from just trying to lose the baby weight to actually building lean muscle and feeling stronger than ever. Seriously, I feel so much stronger than I did before I had my baby. I'm going to be sharing 3 game-changing tips that helped me get results listen to this mama, without extreme dieting or spending hours at the gym. So whether you're just easing back into workouts or ready to level up your postpartum fitness, this episode is packed with realistic, feel-good strategies to help you feel strong, confident, and totally in control of your body again. Let's do this. Feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and like you've lost yourself in the postpartum chaos, struggling to rebuild your strength, heal your core, and feel confident in your body again? Hey mama, I'm Val, a functional sports dietitian, postpartum fitness coach, and a mama who understands exactly what you're going through. Welcome to the Strong and Nourished Mama podcast, where I help busy moms like you regain your energy, rebuild strength, and feel amazing through simple, science-backed nutrition and fitness strategies. If you're ready to go from depleted to strong, nourished, and unstoppable, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
I had the pleasure of working with Val in her pregnancy and postpartum program. I chose to go with her program because I was looking to get better prepared for delivery the second time around. I wanted to have all the tools in my tool belt, and Val's program did just that, providing all the birth fit basics that I still use at 5 months postpartum. I would suggest the program to all my fellow mamas, especially if you're looking to take control of your pregnant and postpartum journey.
That was Meg, a mom of 2 who went through the Restore and Rebuild core and pelvic floor program. And if you are waiting for a sign, this is it. Don't wait another day to feel stronger and more in control of your body, mama. Head to wellnessbyval.com/program and join us now. So today I am sharing with you how I lost fat and gained lean muscle after having my baby. And I'm so excited to share this information with you. I'm going to go into depth a little bit more than I did in episode 1. So in episode 1, I shared my journey and why I wanted to start this podcast. But in this episode, I'm really diving into how I personally lost fat mass, gained muscle mass, and how I am stronger now after having my baby than before I was pregnant. So I found out I was pregnant in December of 2022. And I really focused in the first trimester, I really focused on my nutrition, and I made sure I got plenty of protein and healthy fats with each meal because that helped me avoid that. So if I felt a little nauseous, I knew I had to have those balanced meals, because if I just went straight to carbohydrates, which is so easy to do when you're feeling nauseous and sick, especially in that first trimester, I knew it was going to make things worse and it wasn't going to help anything, and I wasn't going to get the nutrition that I needed for myself and of course for my baby. So I really focused on getting plenty of protein. We're going to talk about that later in the episode, and healthy fats to help balance blood sugars. That was huge. That's big when it comes to overall health and especially help with the nauseous feelings. So I also went on walks outside whenever I would get that little nauseous feeling, and that totally helped to get the fresh air. But I am very grateful that I actually didn't get sick. I was able to continue with my nutrition plan and everything that I was eating and my workouts, so I'm very grateful for that. But what I was extremely tired. And y'all know that first trimester is no joke, and you're just exhausted. I would still go to the gym at 5:30 in the morning. I went to CrossFit. I went to the 5:30 class, and I would wake up at 4:45 a.m., but I went to bed at 7 p.m. I was literally falling asleep on the couch like, okay, I can't do this. Like, I am exhausted. I am tired. And it makes sense because your body is doing so much in the first 12 weeks of gestation. So after, of course, I stayed consistent with my bedtime. So I went to bed early. I stayed consistent with waking up and going to the gym. I felt best in the morning. I focused on meals that were balanced with my macros, especially protein and healthy fat to balance blood sugars. And my exercise routine was about 5 to 6 days a week. I moved my body every single day. I focused on walking and different types of movement, cardio, and then of course I went to CrossFit and I did hot yoga. So this was all during my pregnancy. My last workout at the CrossFit gym was the day I actually went into labor. I went into labor at night, but I did go to the gym in the middle of the day, and I really was focusing on birth prep and movements that was really going to be supportive for labor and delivery. So I had my baby at the end of August 2023. I knew going into postpartum that the first 3 months, it's considered the fourth trimester. And I needed to focus on rest. I needed to focus on recovery. And thankfully, I was able to do that. I was able to take maternity leave, and I had plenty of family around, my parents and my husband's parents. And they were so helpful. My husband was great. I was also breastfeeding. I was learning how to breastfeed. I was meeting with my lactation consultant, what felt like on the regular. And I was focusing on nourishing meals and hydration because I knew I needed that. And going into postpartum, my meal plan and everything that I had in my mind, I tried to set up ahead of time as best as I could. So any backup meals, freezer meals, pantry stocked. But again, I had my husband and my family to be able to make fresh, cooked, nourishing meals. And it was amazing. And I would go outside every day in the backyard. I would lay in a blanket, hang out with the dogs and my baby. And it was so nice. And I started going on walks probably the second week after having my baby, and they were super short. The intensity was low, and the goal was to slowly build up from there. So progressive overload. So I went from walking turtle pace, literally turtle pace, 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 15 and so on. And then I would start to increase the speed a little bit. So instead of going turtle pace, I was going a little bit faster and then a little bit faster. So my pace was just starting to pick up because I was recovering, I was feeling better, but I was also listening to my body. So if I needed to take a break, if I needed to sit down or decrease the speed, I totally did that. And the exercises that I focused on the first 6 weeks postpartum were the breathing techniques that I introduced in my Restore Your Core bootcamp and the breathing techniques that I go into way more detail in my group coaching program. And it takes a lot of practice to be able to connect with the body, especially after you have your baby. But in general, to be able to connect to the body with diaphragmatic belly breathing, the transverse abdominis activation, and then stability breathing eventually when you're adding in additional load. And so that's why in my program, we start with these foundations because this is what you need before going back to the gym, before doing more things around the house or lifting heavier weights or even thinking about losing fat mass and gaining muscle. Because without these techniques, without that foundation, it's going to be really hard to get there. So some of the things that I did that I teach in my program are the Birth Fit Basics. I'm a Birth Fit coach for pregnancy and postpartum moms. And these are 15 movements and poses, and I teach my clients these in my program in addition to other movements that I strongly feel are very supportive for the body throughout pregnancy and postpartum. And they were so helpful for me to start connecting with my body again, connecting with the breath, what feels good, what feels a little different. And as time went on and progressed, I would increase the intensity of these movements and these poses. So I would start with body weight, I would do a modification, and then I would go from modification with body weight to an amplification at body weight, and then eventually maybe speeding it up a bit as long as I didn't have any of those core pelvic floor dysfunction symptoms, maybe the coning, the doming, with the diastasis recti, and I felt in control. And then I would add in bands, so different types of resistance. Mini bands, the long bands, light weights along with my progressions, and then eventually heavier weights. And then I created these mini flows, something that I teach moms in the program to build on top. So you start with these basic movements and poses, you practice them, you incorporate your breath, see what feels good, and then you build on top of them each week. And this is a great time, especially after having your baby, to do it when baby is doing their floor time. When baby's doing exercises, you're doing your exercises, and it can be fun. It can be relaxed. I remember I was in the backyard. We were on the blanket and she was laying on the blanket and I think she was doing tummy time and she had her little cards and her mirror, and I was doing dead bug and cat cow and all of the other movements that I really go in depth in the program. And then I would take a break and I would pick her up and hug her and kiss her or feed her, and then we would do it again. So it was very flexible, it was slow, but it was also fun. And it was a great time for me to incorporate these movements before I actually went back to the doctor, my OB and my pelvic floor PT. You can start doing so much to help this process, the recovery process, to heal your core and your pelvic floor in those first 6 weeks. So there are definitely things you can do, mama, and that's what I teach in my program. And it's not just going to be, oh, you do it the first year and then you're done. I'm almost 20 months postpartum and I'm still doing these movements as part of my warm up, especially to prepare my pelvic floor for more dynamic, demanding movements like jump rope or running, box jumps, anything like that. So when I was 6 weeks postpartum, of course, I met with my OB. I was cleared. I met with my pelvic floor physical therapist, and I had regular meetings with my pelvic floor physical therapist for the first year postpartum. I'm so grateful for her. She is amazing. I've said it so many times, but if you are a woman, if you are a mom, pregnant, postpartum, if you're 20 years postpartum, a pelvic floor physical therapist is amazing. So at this point, I got into a routine where I was walking 3 to 5 miles a day, pushing the stroller. And this was not every single day, but it was most days of the week. That was my movement. And we had this little routine. And after I would feed her in the morning, we would get ready. We would go on a walk. She was in the bassinet. And I would listen to some music or I would talk to her. And it was a lot of fun. It was really cool to see how I was able to progress and feel that progression from that first week postpartum, walking a turtle pace for literally 60 seconds and being out of breath, to walking 3 miles at a good pace where I wasn't bleeding after. Because if we have that bleeding, that's your uterus, that's your body telling you, hey, we're going a little too intense right now. Let's back off a bit. And it felt so good to be able to do that and progress. And when my husband would go to the gym, baby girl and I would go and we would walk. And I followed my program at home and started integrating weights there. So I was building the progression of the movements that I teach in the program. And I was doing more functional movements, things that made sense for me as a mom. What was going to help me stay strong? Because especially when you have your infant, at least for me and your first baby, I hear it's different with the second babe, but I felt like at times I was rocking her in her room, trying to put her to sleep for a long time. And so I wanted to make sure that I was strong enough to keep my core activated and protect my low back, because that's when I hear moms, my clients, tell me, I hurt my low back and I was just rocking my baby, or after rocking my baby, I went and picked up the laundry basket and I felt like something tweaked and now I can't work out, or I feel very tight and in pain. And so everything that we're building on in the program, everything that I did and what I'm teaching you is going to help functionally in your everyday life. I didn't start CrossFit again until I was about 2 months postpartum. I took my baby with me. I'm so grateful I was able to do that. And the owner is amazing. She was letting me take the stroller and my baby. And if there was like running in the workout, I would just take the stroller, go for a little walk and come back because I wasn't running yet. And I went back to work. I stay consistent with this routine all through the end of 2023. I was on maternity leave and I was consistent with going to CrossFit in the middle of the day, walking in the morning, staying on top of my nutrition, making sure I was eating enough, I was drinking enough to not only fuel my recovery and now the workouts that I was doing. So the more you move, the more energy you're going to need, the more calories you're going to need, but also to be able to produce milk and feed my baby. That was number one for me. So I was consistent with this all through the end of 2023. And I went back to work at the beginning of 2024 and I was able to go back part-time and slowly build up, which I'm so grateful for. But going to CrossFit wasn't realistic for me just because of how far I live. I live about 25 minutes from the gym I was going to. So it wasn't realistic for me to go to the gym. So I did a lot of workouts at home. I have a garage setup. I have a Peloton bike. And then I was trying to figure out what could I do now that I'm going to work as a routine that's going to be supportive for me to be able to build muscle mass and eventually lose fat mass when I was there. And so there's a gym about 5 minutes away from my house in Anytime Fitness. And so I signed up there in January and I've been going there at 5 a.m. ever since. And so my routine was very similar to when I was pregnant. It was just a little bit different. So I went to bed at 8:30 p.m. That's when my baby went to sleep. And I woke up at 4:45 and I would go to the gym at 5 a.m. Now, my baby girl, we're blessed because she, of course, when she was an infant, the first 3-4 months after she was born, she was being fed through the night. But then she started to sleep through the night until about February of 2024. And I decided to feed her in the middle of the night. And so I started that habit and it's just what she needed. And looking back, I don't regret it at all. And we did that from February to June that year. And so I was waking up in the middle of the night and I'm thinking, oh no, is this going to make it harder for me to go to the gym in the morning? And what I told myself was, I'm going to be as consistent as I can with getting up. I'm going to honor that alarm. And I have a Whoop, WHOOP, and it's not a watch, but you can look it up. I love it. I've had it since 2017. But what I really like about it, especially with a baby, is the alarm to wake you up vibrates on your wrist. So you don't have this like obnoxious noise and then your baby wakes up and then that's just like a shit show. Nobody wants that. So I was really grateful to be able to have that alarm. So I set my alarm, I honored it. And if I woke up, I tried to set my environment up for success as best as I could. So of course, my pre-bed routine, we've talked about this on the show before. I tried to make sure I had dim lights and do a pre-bed routine and my exercises. And then if I woke up to feed her, I would keep the lights off. I was basically like feeling around the house, walking in pitch black. And I would go in to her room. I would pick her up. You kind of like memorize where everything is. And then you get used to the darkness. And I would feed her. I would put her back after I burped her. And then I'd go back to bed. And so as long as I felt refreshed and I got probably at least 80% of my sleep need, I would honor the alarm and I would still go to the gym. If there was a night where I woke up multiple times and I got less than 80% of my sleep need, then I wouldn't go. I would honor my body and I'd probably do either something later that day or take a rest day. So I was very flexible with that, but I tried to honor going to the gym 3 days a week because I had other routines outside of that. And that worked for me. Here's what Liz has to say about the Restore and Rebuild Core and Pelvic Floor Group Coaching Program. I signed up for Val's program halfway through my second pregnancy, and I'm so glad I did. Even after one pregnancy, I realized I didn't fully understand what was happening with my body. I wanted to feel more prepared and proactive, and Val's program helped me do exactly that. The breathing techniques, core and pelvic floor work, and weekly check-ins helped me feel strong, relaxed, and more in tune with my body. I'd recommend this to any woman, mom or not. Take it from Liz, sign up for the program, wellnessbyval.com/program. I think it's really easy, especially when you're breastfeeding and you're very tired and you're working, you have a baby, you're getting up in the middle of the night, to be like, oh man, no, I'm just going to sleep in. I'm just going to sleep in. But remember, we have to anchor our wake up time, especially if you're already in a routine going back to work. Anchoring your wake up time is going to be so supportive for your circadian rhythm. And so that's why I wanted to continue that habit of, hey, I have to wake up at 4:45 no matter what typically. And so even just sleeping in is probably going to make me feel drowsy and not good. It's probably going to lead to me wanting to snack on foods that I know aren't going to be supportive for me. Not that I can't snack on fun foods. It's just, it's going to be this vicious cycle. So I really made sure that I set my environment up for success. I was flexible when I needed to be, but I really focused on strength work about 4 times per week. So I went to the gym, I did stuff at home, I did a lot of body weight stuff. I was still doing everything that I'm teaching my clients in the program. And that's when I started my program. I was 5 months postpartum and I started my program January of 2024. And I really am happy that I did it because I was able to actually go through it with the moms that I was teaching, and I love that. I really also focused on getting as much movement throughout the day as I could. So my goal was 10,000 steps, and if I didn't get 10,000, I wasn't mad at myself. I didn't feel like a failure. It's just, hey, you know what? Let me try to move a little bit more during the workday, which I know can be hard. So as many days as I could each week, I would try to get to my 10K steps, and I was progressively overloading with my workouts. So I wrote my own workouts, and I was able to split it up with full body, upper body, lower body, integrated some cardio and challenging my system metabolically and focusing on strength and progressive overload. So meaning you're progressively increasing the weight, the intensity over time in a way that is going to actually help you build muscle and lose fat. I was breastfeeding. I was breastfeeding full time, especially before we introduced food. And so my focus wasn't to lose muscle mass or to lose fat mass at that point. It was really to, hey, I need fat. I'm going to need fat. And if I do my body composition, I'm going to have higher fat and I'm okay with that. But I really need to see where my muscle is at because I know that during pregnancy and postpartum, it is so easy to lose muscle mass and we feel weak and we feel tired. And so the progressive overload was really, really helpful for that. And I started to get stronger and I feel better. And I was able to see that I was able to increase weight and increase intensity. So at this point, I was 8.5 months postpartum. I decided to do a fitness test, and I did these fitness tests before I had my baby. And with the fitness test, we're looking at body composition, we're looking at strength, flexibility, mobility, and cardiorespiratory fitness. And so the cardiorespiratory fitness is a submax VO2 aerobic capacity test. And I started to get back into running, and I wanted to run the mile. So for this test, it's a 1 mile run or a 1 mile walk. And I decided to run. I can't remember what my time was. I should probably look at that. But this was a baseline. I wasn't comparing myself to 2022 and before that, before I got pregnant. I was just getting this baseline to see where I was and how my nutrition, my sleep, my progressions with my workouts was actually working. So I did the skin fold body fat test. And so a skin fold is where you have the calipers and you separate the subcutaneous fat in the skin from the muscle and you pinch. And so for women, it's where we hold our fat in the 3 sites, the tricep, the suprailiac above the hip, and then the thigh. And then these are measured in millimeters. You put them into a calculation to get your body fat. So my body fat percentage was 18.1%. We also did the in-body. You guys may have seen this at local gyms where you stand on a scale and you hold the handles. Now your in-body is a bioelectrical impedance analysis, and it's really dependent on hydration status. So if you're dehydrated, body fat's going to be higher. If you're overhydrated, body fat's going to be lower. And then of course, caffeine, exercise, and other things are going to be directly impacting the body composition on the in-body. So it's very specific with like the directions of what to do. Both forms of body composition, the skin fold and the in-body, they have their pros and they have their cons. I typically do both, and I'm not married to the number. I just like to see the trend. So again, this is my baseline. It really means nothing because it's just the beginning, and I'm starting over essentially because I'm not comparing it to myself before I had my baby. So with the in-body, my skeletal muscle mass was 53.6 pounds. My lean body mass was 97.2. So your lean body mass is everything but your fat mass, okay? That's including skeletal muscle, your organs, your skin, and fluid. And then you have dry lean mass. Dry lean mass is going to be without the fluid. Your skeletal muscle mass is just that. It's just your skeletal muscle. So it's not including the skin, organs, or other muscles within the body. It's going to be your skeletal muscle mass. And then for the strength, I did push-ups and modified pull-ups. I was able to do 40 push-ups and 16 modified pull-ups. And I think I was around that before I was pregnant. Again, I wasn't comparing myself. I was just something that I remember. It was always really hard for me to do the modified pull-ups because pull-ups are hard and push-ups are hard too. I actually hate them so much. But the next time that I did my fitness test, so that was 8.5 months postpartum, I did another 1 year postpartum, and my skin fold body fat percentage went from 18.1 to 15.1. My in-body body fat percentage went from 26.1 to 22.2. Now, what I love to see, again, I didn't care about the fat, was still breastfeeding at this point. My skeletal muscle mass went from 53.6 pounds to 54.5. So it went up. It's a good trend. And I wasn't focusing on losing fat at this point since I was still breastfeeding. And then my lean body mass went from 97.2 to 98.8. So it was the direction I wanted. It was essentially telling me, hey, what I'm doing nutritionally and what I'm doing in the gym is working. We just have to stay consistent with it. I was able to increase the amount of push-ups I did, and I was able to increase the amount of pull-ups I did. So I went from 16 modified pull-ups to 20. And I was so happy with that, again, because I just remember how hard it was for me before I was pregnant. The next time that I did a fitness test was actually recently. It was at the beginning of April this year, 2025, about 19 months postpartum. And my body fat didn't really change. It stayed about the same. And I didn't expect it to because I actually wasn't making dramatic changes. My goal right now is staying consistent. I stopped breastfeeding 13 months postpartum. So then I was able to play around with diet a little bit, but I was like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy my fun foods. I'm going to focus on my protein. I'm focused on balanced meals and staying consistent in the gym. So my body fat stayed about the same, but get this, my lean body mass and my skeletal muscle mass increased even more. So 1 year postpartum, I had 54.5 pounds of skeletal muscle mass. And this last April, I had 55.3. So again, trending in the right direction, trending upward. My lean body mass went from 98.8 to 100.1. So we can say in a year and a half, My skeletal muscle mass increased from 53.6 to 55.3. And my lean body mass increased from 97.2 to 100.1. How cool is that? My fat stayed about the same. Maybe that's just my body saying, hey, this is the amount of fat we like, but my muscle increased. And also, I was able to get 2 more on my modified pull-ups. I went from 16 modified pull-ups, 8.5 months postpartum, to 20 to 22. So now I'm at 22 modified pull-ups. I'm really proud of that because those suckers are hard. It sucks. And I'm doing way more than I did before I was pregnant. So all of that to say, and you may be thinking, listening to this, like, Val, these are numbers that I am not understanding. And I talk about this more with my clients, but essentially, with staying consistent, with focusing on protein, with progressive overload, with starting with the basics and everything that I teach you in my program, I was able to increase lean body mass and increase strength. And I feel good. And I'm really happy also with how I look because as a mom, I think confidence is important. And it's okay to want aesthetic goals. And that can be important for you. So I share this because it's possible. It works. It may take time. Everybody's journey is different, but I would be so grateful to guide you on your wellness journey, whether you're pregnant, you're postpartum, you're 3 years postpartum, wherever you are, mama, I am here for you. So let's talk about 3 proven tips for moms to get strong. Tip number 1, prioritize protein and balanced nutrition for fat loss and muscle gain. Protein is essential for recovery. We need all of the amino acids, especially the essential amino acids, to recover, heal, support our metabolism, and build muscle. How do we get enough protein? Well, first we need to assess how much we're getting now, and then we need to slowly progress. And I'll work with you one-on-one. If you sign up for the program, wellnessbyval.com/program, and you pay in full before tonight, 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, that's on when I'm recording this, is April 21st, you are going to be getting a free nutrition coaching session with me so we can dive into your protein needs and more. We also need to make sure we're getting enough protein per meal, about 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal. Now, in episode 13, I talk about high protein breakfast ideas. In episode 19, quick and healthy weeknight dinners that are going to have a lot of protein. We also want to focus on balancing our macros, carbs for energy, healthy fats for hormones, and fiber for digestion. We want to stay hydrated. The muscle needs water. And we also want supportive supplements. So creatine, episode 24, I talk about the benefits for creatine for women. So go listen to those episodes. Tip number 2, strength training with a core and pelvic floor safe approach. This is everything I teach you in my 6-week group coaching program. We focus on the foundations for your core, your pelvic floor, the breathing, all of the movements. There are so many and different progressions and what that can look like for you. And then you have that progressive overload over time. You're increasing the intensity, the weight. You're focusing on the deep core activation, functional strength, and you're avoiding movements that strain healing tissue. So if you're in that recovery phase still, we want to be mindful of that. In the program, I give you plenty of workouts and flows for you to be able to incorporate during the weeks of the program and beyond. And then tip number 3, smart movement and recovery to support metabolism. We need to move throughout the day. This is going to matter. This is known as NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So moving throughout the day, like walking, chasing the kids, changing positions, of course, activities of daily living, that's going to support your metabolism. And that's also going to be just great for overall health, cognitive function. You're going to be able to play with your kids and have fun. It's going to support your metabolism and it's going to help with fat loss. We also cannot neglect quality sleep and stress management. So I've talked about this in a previous episode. If sleep right now is less than 80%, we're not even thinking about fat loss because it's going to be very, very hard. It's going to be like almost impossible if you're not sleeping and you're stressed out of your mind to lose fat mass. And I don't want you to be discouraged by that. So we have to focus on quality sleep and stress management. And I know that can be hard as a mama, but this is definitely something that I talk about in the program. We also need to be mindful of overtraining because if you just go back into your exercises and your routines and you're overtraining, it's going to backfire and you're actually going to hold on to fat and lose muscle for energy. So we want to be able to listen to our body, challenge ourselves, take rest days, and do something that works for us in our lifestyle. It's really important to listen to your body, adjust intensity as needed, and this is something that I help you with in the program. And I talk about this more in episode 36, losing baby weight or gaining strength and how to prioritize your postpartum fitness goals. So go listen to that episode. So as a quick recap, 1, by following the program that I created for you, I followed it myself, mama. I am here to tell you, along with 11 other moms, that this program works. You're going to feel stronger. You're going to feel more confident. You're going to be able to do all the things you want to do as a mama. And then 3 tips to feel strong: prioritize protein, balanced nutrition for fat loss and muscle gain, strength training with a core and pelvic floor safe approach, and smart movements and recovery to support your metabolism. Mama, this is your final call. Today, Monday, April 21st, is the last day to grab the special bonuses for the Restore and Rebuild group coaching program. This isn't just a workout. It's your chance to finally feel in control of your body again. So join today and get $50 off, a free 30-minute nutrition coaching session, and a done-for-you Fuel Your Recovery meal plan when you pay in full. And if you choose the payment plan, you're still going to get the meal plan. How cool is that? You deserve to feel strong, confident, and supported. Head to wellnessbyval.com/program before the day is over. See you next week. Hey mama, I hope you loved today's episode. If it resonated with you, would you please take 30 seconds to share it with another mom, a mom who's looking to make healthy eating and exercise easier, because we need that. And if you haven't yet, I would be so grateful if you could leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts. It truly means the world to me and helps the show reach more amazing moms like you. All right, time to chase my toddler around. Stay strong and nourished, and I will be back on Monday with another episode. Talk soon.